well, as the Madlanga Commission has, of course, adjourned for the day. Advocate Johnson back on the stand on Monday, that's the 27th of July. This amid Public Interest South Africa now lodging a complaint with Legal Practice Council challenging her fitness to continue practicing as a legal practitioner. But to get a sense more of what we heard at the Madlanga Commission this afternoon, let's now cross to news anchor Thembekile Mrototo. Thembekile, of course, a busy day on the stand for Advocate Johnson. Give us a sense then in terms of some of those key highlights that came out today.
Well, Nadia, a busy day indeed, and we'll get you more on that breaking news from Public Interest SA and how they basically are now going to be taking action that could affect Advocate Andrea Johnson's standing as an advocate in this country, her role basically as an officer of the court, if you will. All of it to do with what has come out of the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry since she first appeared here. This was on Tuesday, I believe. At the beginning of this week is when we started to deal with Andrea Johnson and the allegations against the Investigating Directorate Against Corruption. Tebogo Kas from Public Interest SA is actually here at the Commission, so as soon as he is able to speak to us, we'll bring you that conversation. But for the moment, I'm going to bring in SABC News senior reporter Canny Maphanga, who's with me, as always, at the Commission. Canny, so we're at the end of day 3 for Advocate Andrea Johnson. What has stood out for you as the main issue?
Well, I think we can sum it up as contradictions, concessions and withdrawals from the IDAC head, that is Advocate Andrea Johnson today. But a very important concession made about Brigadier Mukwele, who seemingly got caught up in this alleged factional war, which places IDAC allegedly at the center of it, because at the very least she was able to withdraw that statement that painted her as an individual that didn't have qualifications or was unsuitable for the post within crime intelligence. She has now actually conceded that at the time she didn't have the information that would have supported such a claim in her affidavit. We also see contradictions being held up to her, that statements that she made in ad hoc versus what she stated here, that lend credibility issues with respect to how could she remember it in this way before that particular body and then remember it differently here. But at the very least, what we do see is that a concurrent theme continues to run, that there was no factual basis for the case, and it seems, or at least that's what the evidence is warming up to now, is that it was basically couched in the preliminary stage in order for them to conduct that full-blown investigation, which wasn't actually duly authorized. And that's how they end up with the conclusion that they end up with, because they started the investigation without any authorization in order to cure the defect that this particular affidavit by Fadil Adams actually didn't meet the requirements of the Section 27 referral. So certainly a lot to get through with respect to Advocate Andrea Johnson, because we still don't know what is the alleged motive behind the conduct. We know that there was this pursuit of this case that seemingly wasn't a case, but we don't know the why. And she's expected to continue on Monday with that evidence as Advocate Silla tries to warm up to what the alleged true intentions could have been behind this particular case, which is now under review by the National Director of Public Prosecutions.
And as you say, motive has been highlighted as the one piece of the puzzle that we've not managed to get to. In fact, Commissioner Baloyi has said that's the one thing she wants to see addressed and resolved, right? But interestingly, in the morning session, there was also a tough question, or a series of tough questions for Advocate Johnson around how Fadil Adams, who's a member of parliament, yes, but is still a civilian, says he was snuck, he had intelligence documents put under his door, yet when she found out that that is how he had obtained the information that, let's say, became the basis for his complaint, she did not flag it with any of the other relevant authorities.
In addition to that, she didn't check to see if those documents actually met up with the suspicions that he was making in the Section 27 referral affidavit, and she concedes that she actually didn't look at it further to refer to another body to state that here is a normal citizen, a member of the public who now has classified documents, let me refer this matter to you, which raises questions about how these events come about and what the Commission must make of IDAC's conduct as well as Advocate Andrea Johnson's conduct, and how this all takes place under her watch.
Canny, thank you. That's SABC News senior reporter. Canny would have seen me, you may have seen me as well, looking over Canny's shoulder. That's because Thembekile from Public Interest SA is walking in our direction. I was telling you earlier, in fact, Unati, you were outlining all of that, that ultimately, as we sit here today, Public Interest SA is now beginning to set the wheels in motion for action against Advocate Andrea Johnson based on her evidence here at the Commission. Thembekile with me now. Sir, good to have your time. So speak to me about what it is that you want the Legal Practice Council to do exactly and the basis for your complaint.
Well, thank you for that question. What we basically are asking for is for the Legal Practice Council to set up a disciplinary hearing with a view to actually ascertaining or determining whether Advocate Johnson is fit and proper to be on the role of advocates or lawyers, as it very well may be. And because her conduct so far does not accord with what is expected of officers of the court in her position.
Is it not too early in the day to do that, considering that her appearance at the Commission, her testimony has not yet concluded?
Well, certainly it might sound so, but we already know that Advocate Johnson has made concessions. Already she's conceded to have acted flouted the public of interest prescripts. Conflict of interest prescripts. When she appeared at the interview for the then vacant position of the NDPP and before Parliament and even here at the Madlanga Commission. On that alone, it just shows the kind of gravity of the situation, and you cannot have somebody who's also facing potential criminal charges after having shared with a witness a protected disclosure. For us, it is not something, just by mere being accused of that and also refusing or pleading the fifth, or pleading non-incrimination before this commission, just shows you've got a lot to talk. You cannot have an NDPP or a lawyer in that position.
To clarify, is your complaint already with the council? And secondly, having heard the evidence over the last 2.5 weeks, let's say, especially around IDAC, Advocate Johnson now as the head, and Brian Pariachi, an investigator last week, how tainted at this very early stage, how damaging, let me use that word rather, do you think all of these allegations have been to the standing of the office?
Well, we certainly, this morning, I signed off on the letter to the LPC. I've got confirmation while I was sitting in this commission that it was dispatched, and certainly that part of it, I'm quite, hopefully that the LPC would have taken care of that, and they were waiting for confirmation of receipt. And then secondly, the damage is quite very, very huge. And we wonder if it is repairable at all, because it might very well be, it will take a lot for public confidence in the prosecuting authority. And in this instance, I must say, IDAC specifically, especially under the leadership of Advocate Johnson, to actually survive this type of damning allegations and admissions that she's made. I must emphasize the admissions that she's conceded to.
Thembekile, always good to talk to you. Thank you so much. Thembekile is the head of Public Interest SA that's now lodged an official complaint against Advocate Andrea Johnson, the head of the investigating Directorate Against Corruption. She will be back here at the Madlanga Commission to have more of her say on Monday morning at 9:30. The Commission will shift gears slightly on Friday, that's tomorrow, with a different issue set to be on the table, possibly around the Suleiman Karim matters, but we're not too clear yet on how the program will unfold tomorrow. But nonetheless, the SABC team will be back here at the Bridget Mabandla Justice College.